Am I pronouncing your name right? Gumi? Kwani. Kwani. Sorry. You're just talking. The music, yeah. Was that done deliberately? Hello. Yes, and yes, of course, I've got my Goonie Guani in the studio with me, and he is assisting me. You know, this bit of help is so important. It just makes things go so much smoothly. Are you going to say hello? Sorry. Yes, I hope you heard him. A bit louder. Hello. Right, thank you so much. Right, we've got, as I said earlier, Dr. Shishni Mudlaya, and she's going to be telling us exactly what is happening around spirituality and mental health. Hello, Dr. Shishni Mudlaya.
Hello, Valma. How are you? Always lovely to hear your voice and to be on the radio with you.
Thank you so much. And how are you?
No, I'm fantastic. I'm doing really well. And I've had a day full of light because I went to another person who practices the same art of true light, Sukyo Mahikari. I was at her home today receiving light and exchanging.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about that. So how did the weather treat you yesterday? Because it's really...
Yes, it was extremely hot actually the whole weekend, and we went into London on Saturday to the Sukhumai Curry Centre, and the traffic, and there was a lot of people on the trains. Yeah, so it's very busy. Maybe not so busy where I am, but definitely London was extremely busy.
That's interesting. Now, it was last year. I was informed by the Institute of Psychiatry that they have incorporated a spiritual dimension in mental health, in the treatment of mental health. And so why is that? And what all of a sudden, why is spirituality fundamental in terms of mental health?
Yes, as you know, working in the profession in mental health services, you know, Valma, that we usually treat people holistically. So it's a combination of different treatments to aid people in their recovery and well-being. So it's about looking at medication, psychological aspects like talking therapies, education, and then also the social aspects and support. However, adding the dimension of spirituality will form part of that holistic approach. So in terms of a person's spirituality, you know, it will affect the way they view medications or taking medications, or they view about illnesses and diseases. It will also affect the way they will communicate or open up or not open up in therapy, and also the social aspects, you know. Anyone that does have a spirituality will affect their social support or their community at large. So it's definitely a fundamental thing for every single person. Having said that, we know that obviously some people do not think spirituality is important. You know, there's obviously the scientists and people that just believe, or atheists that don't believe in religions. However, as the college has recognized, as you've said, it is important, it is fundamental that for any person to function happy, healthy, and to promote recovery and well-being, especially during mental health crises or like we've seen now with the pandemic, we know that there was a tsunami of mental health referrals. So I think this is one of the driving forces that they've included spirituality. These are only a few reasons, but there are many more, because we know that different cultures, different races, different nationalities all have different spirituality beliefs. And our spiritual beliefs also affect our morals, our values, our behaviors. So all of this is going to affect a person's psyche or their mental well-being. So I'm not surprised that they've included it, and I think it's an integral part of a person's journey of recovery and well-being.
So what is spirituality crisis? Because there's a differentiation. Sorry, there's a saying. They've sort of said spiritual crisis and mental health. What's the difference?
Yeah. So mental health, obviously a crisis or mental health condition, these are diagnosable mental health conditions. For example, we're talking about depression, anxiety, social phobia, OCD, and panic disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar. So these are all the illnesses, autism. And these are the conditions that we know are diagnosed and then are treatable. So a person will present with a condition like depression. We diagnose it, we provide them treatment, holistic, so not just medication, psychology, and social. But then looking at spiritual crisis. So spiritual crisis is definitely different. And in the practice that I follow, the Art of True Light, Sukyo Mahikari, it's a practice where they do believe that we all here on earth, we here to accumulate, we here to.
So just wait, what's the definition of spiritual crisis?
Yeah.
Is it because sometimes within mental health services you do see clients coming in,
yeah,
and they are they're very orientated around spirituality, and
yeah,
they're talking to themselves and so forth.
Yeah.
Can you sort of give us an idea of what it is? Because many years ago, a lot of African Caribbean individuals used to be admitted to hospital because they were, when they were seen, they were shouting out, God and seeing things. So please, can you explain that?
So I think it's difficult to understand, especially if people understand mental health conditions. You can understand when someone is obviously quite unwell and become disturbed by experiences. So in a spiritual crisis is, as you explained, there's people that might present with a spiritual disturbance. So it might be that, and these are things that in the Art of True Light they talk about, as like a spiritual disturbance. So basically, people become disturbed spiritually, where something affects them, where they like in the Bible or in certain movies we've seen about people speaking in tongues and in different different aspects of that. And so that's one way of understanding a spiritual disturbance, is that obviously that person is somehow not in control of what actually is happening, and that's because somehow there's a spiritual disturbance. So that is what is a spiritual crisis. And the way to actually, in terms of the Art of True Light, of understanding it, I mean, we really don't go much in detail about it, only once you become more advanced in the practice, and you get trained in it, to looking at spiritual disturbances. So I'm only going to touch on the surface, but in terms of that, it's very interesting that you've picked that up, because what they say is, with the Art of True Light, the Japanese tradition that I follow, Sukyo Mahikari, is they talk about us purifying ourselves and our souls. And the more we become purified with God's light, the more our soul gets purified, because we've all come on this journey. We've come on earth to actually purify ourselves, to learn from previous lessons, karma. And also we are here to practice the basic principles. So in this practice, it's very simple, Valma, really. It's just about receiving light, radiating light. It's about practicing gratitude, humility, acceptance of whatever is God's will, and offering apology and prayer. So it's basically a very simple practice, and any person of any religion can practice it, and you're not bound to this practice.
So what is the light? I mean, because how do you interpret that? Is it something within, or is it something we radiate? What is it?
Yes, so the art of true light, Sukyo Mahikari, is basically a practice where people attend a 3-day course, a primary course. You don't have to have any experience really. You just have had needed to have had received light and then go on the 3-day course. Once you finish attending the course where they teach you more about the practice or the Sukyo Mahikari, you then receive a pendant or an omitama, and through that you will then be able to be a practitioner or a kumite.
So what is I'm trying to work out here? What is the light? Is it something you feel within? Is it something we radiate? What is it?
Basically, it's about all of us connecting with God's light. The light is God's light. So by raising your hand, you are basically tuning in with God and you're radiating his light. And that is what it's about. So you've heard of stories of Jesus just raising his hands and miracles being performed. And, we know about Buddha and enlightenment. So many different references about God's light in the Bible, in other religions and practices. You hear about Reiki and all these other things. It's not the same, but it's similar. So basically, it's about you radiating, lifting your hand and radiating and tuning in with God's light. So it's basically the light from God. So when you raise your hand, you are in tune with God and you're radiating that light onto the person. And when you do that, and people, so usually when you first start, one of the main points is giving light to the forehead where the third eye is. So we usually do that for 10 minutes. And I think that's something you might be familiar with. So, the reason for doing that is obviously the third eye and whatever impurities we accumulated. And so that is one way of understanding it. And a lot of people actually, it's not a form of healing, but they say by purifying our soul and then obviously radiating light to other parts of the body, like the kidney, the back of the neck, and also the kidney area and various other points on the body. There's 27 different points. So each part of the body has a different point. So a practitioner will radiate light first to the forehead, the third eye for 10 minutes, and then give you a session of light on the other points up to anything 40 to 50 minutes. And by doing that, a lot of people have found benefits. I want to refer to a book. So it's in a book. So if anyone's interested, and it's something I'm going to share with you as well, Valma. So it's called The God's Light, and it's by Sydney Chang. And it's about, the title is God's Light and Universal Principles for All Humanity. And it's by Sydney E. Chang. He's someone that's I know, and he's in London. And so I'm going to read from the book cover. So this book is the outcome of over 7 years of dedicated work by the editor and his team. Sydney had a personal story to share when he was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and found relief in the treatment that gave him God's light and turned his life around. The movement originated in Japan and is based on universal spiritual principles and a clear idea that God has a plan for Earth in which we can take part. So Sydney Chang is quite an experienced person, and he actually came from a medical field dealing with cancer patients. And through his journey of the art of true light, he published this book. And this book is actually a reference for a lot of people when they want to know more about the practice and they've not done the course. It's a book that we recommend them to read. So this is what the centers. At the centers, so people that head the centers are called dojojos. So, and then there's another person that also runs most of the whatever happens doshi. So these are the people. If anyone is experiencing any spiritual disturbance, like you explained, or they want to receive light, then we usually contact the center heads, which is the dojo, the doshi, and we arrange.
So, I came across some research that was undertaken in the USA.
Yeah.
And it states, in terms of integrating spirituality within mental health, that 50% of individuals who participated in the research, that their mental health was actually improved.
Yes.
As a consequence of of spirituality. And, you know, I must say that I have come across individuals that when they stop praying and believe in themselves, because it's a sense of it, getting to believe and have some for belief and focus on something other than just your mental health. Would you say that's possibility of how it works?
Definitely.
Where the person is focusing on something that's giving them some belief.
Yes. I mean, I totally 100% agree with that. And I think from personal experience and going through challenges, and also during this pandemic, you know, a lot of people have turned to spirituality because that's the only thing they could grasp on, that could help them and provide them with that solace and that you know, that meaning and that help. So a lot of people turn to prayer, and we've heard stories about how people just kneeled and prayed and how miracles were performed. So similarly with this practice, we hear, you know, number of stories where people receive light and they recover. And so I just want to say more point on the art of true light, and then I'm going to go on to spirituality, which you were talking about. But just to say, with the art of true light is actually a way, when you do the primary course, they teach you that this is a way to attain prosperity and happiness and peace. So it's all about love, peace, and harmony. And so it's a very simple practice. And who doesn't want to achieve happiness? You know, we all, you know, I call myself the happy doctor's kitchen, happiness psychiatrist, because I want to help people become happy. And I'm sure you're the same, Valma. Every single person on earth wants to achieve happiness. And no matter, and the reason why spirituality is so important is because, you know, all these other things that we grasp on, like material things or experiences, you know, it's going to give us happiness for a temporary time. But then obviously after that, how do you achieve happiness? How do you sustain happiness? Because, you know, some people say, okay, if I get that job, if I get this car, I'm going to be happy. Or if I get, you know, this promotion, or this, my children achieve this, I'm going to be happy. But it's not about that. It's about having sustaining happiness. And therefore you can't just depend on
the qualities it gives you. I mean, you know, it talks about you being more creative, more patient, more persistent, more honest, more kind, more compassionate, more wise, more calm, and tranquility as well, in terms of having that sense of feeling that God is in control, and therefore you don't worry about the next step, because you feel engraced in the spirituality, and in terms of giving you that harmony.
Yes. Exactly. It gives the person a peace, a sense of harmony, a sense of happiness, and inner peace. And I think, as you said, all those points you said, it's about when people start praying and when they start changing the way they feel about things, and from a more negative to positive, they're obviously trying to purify themselves. You know, we're trying to be more positive, have more positive behaviors, and obviously become more happier and be more peaceful and tranquil. So all of this is like part of most religions, because when you pray and when you chant verses, when you read the Bible, or if you read spiritual books like the Sikyo Maikari, or if you read the Quran or other religions, whatever, the Bhagavad Gita, you know, all these other books, you know, I've got I've had all these books. So when you read all of these scriptures and you learn about spirituality, definitely it's going to give someone that sense of inner peace and happiness, and that, you know, that they're not actually alone, that actually what you said, you just said it so beautifully, that God is in control. And that's what it's about. It's about purifying our souls. It's about becoming more positive, showing more gratitude, you know, and showing apology, because we've all have developed some impurities and we've all created karma, because whatever we do will come back to us in another way. And that is why we're all here to learn different lessons. And this is what, you know, is universal principles. So the more and more we become people who are happy, who are radiant, who are more positive, more kind, and compassionate. And then this is when more we will become more in tune with God and God's light. So whether you do the Art of True Light or the Sukyo Mahikari, which I spoke about, or whether you follow Christianity or any other form, I think all these religions are all trying to do similar things.
So, Dr. Mudler, if anyone wanted to find out more about the meaning of light, where can they get information?
Yeah, so they can actually contact me on my Facebook, Seshni Mudlia, or on Instagram, Sesh Mudlia. There is a website, www.sukyomahikari.org, so they can Google that and they can look on the website, or just type in Sukyo Mahikari. I'll just spell it out.
How do you spell it?
Yeah, I'll spell it because I don't think people are familiar. So it's SUKYO, and it's Mahikari, Mahikari. So Mahikari. So Sukyo Mahikari. And the book, Sydney Chang's book, I think is available on Amazon. But if they're in London, in the UK, there is a centre in London, in Oxford and Reading, and there's centres worldwide. So wherever they're listening from, I do hope if they want to find out more about it, they can contact me or one of the centres. And there is a Facebook group as well, Friends of Sukyo Mahikari.
That's good. That's good. Excellent. So, look, thank you so much for sharing your perspective and from a medical point of view, the importance of the use of spirituality within mental health. And I think it's good that we talk about it because some people are really embarrassed or too scared to show their spirituality when they enter within mental health services. And I know where I'm working that we do promote it. So people should never be scared to practice their spirituality.
No, it's so important. It's really important.
It's important that when they are in hospital that they do ask what facilities they have.
Yes.
To facilitate that. So
it is important.
Thanks so much for your input.
No, you're welcome. I just wanted to say that the founder of this is Sukunishisama, and he was a founder of it, and we've got two other people that went after him, which is Seshu-sama and Shinisama. So they are the people that actually brought this out, the Art of True Light. And it's a very interesting concept. And obviously, if people are looking for something alternative, a lot of people are looking at alternative treatments, I would definitely highly recommend the Art of True Light if you're looking for true happiness and peace and prosperity.
Okay, thank you so much. And let's hope that the world becomes more connected.
Definitely.
Harmony.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you.
So
yes, it's about love, peace, and harmony. Bye-bye. You've taken the words out. Thank you, Valma. Bye. Thank you so much.